What's up, guys? It's Dynasty from the Mountaintops. I am Mickey, as always, and I'm joined with Jeremy again, as always. I love saying that phrase, apparently. How you doing tonight?
Hey, it's good. It's better than me not being here, or even more importantly, you not being here. So all is well. I'm doing fine. We have a week of football under our belt.
We do. We do. And boy, what a week of football it was. That's actually the first thing we're going to talk about. Um, is the NFL got this stuff right, man. Like, there were not many blowouts, and fun until the last whistle on a lot of these games, which was pretty cool to see. So I'm just happy football's back, but even more happy that it was actually competitive football instead of
I'm
blowout.
glad you called. I'm glad you called out the whistle aspect. Like it's true. Like there was a lot of the ones where we would feel if we get a classic. I don't know. 2 or 3 times a season, I feel that we're spoiled, and you could argue we had 2 or 3 just this past weekend. So
Yeah,
Um, yeah, if the script writers are starting with that, then I'm looking forward to what they're cooking for this year.
yeah, this is gonna be an interesting script this year if that's the case for sure. Especially since they have the protagonists 0-1, which is shocking. So in the Chiefs, so but anyway, we're going to talk about takeaways from the week, some standouts for fantasy, um, give you a few flex options for your week two matchups. And then 2026 early draft outlook is going to be the final piece of what we're doing. We're already talking about 2026 because it's dynasty. You always have to pay attention to what's coming on the horizon, so you know if you want to get that 2026 first or not. So first off, we're going to talk about takeaways. My number one takeaway, like I said before, the NFL knew what they were doing in week one. Um, I mean, it was so much fun to watch football Thursday, Friday, even Saturday, but Sunday, Monday, every game. There were most of the games and all primetime games were so good um, that I'm just looking forward to the season. And I think obviously they do that on purpose to entice you, but this year feels like it was even more competitive. I guess I don't know the right word to say it. More dramatic than any other year that I can
It's a good word.
recall.
I like
So,
that word.
um, and it wasn't just the primetime games. Some 1 o'clock games. The
The Steelers Jets game was pretty good for a 1 o'clock game.
Yeah, I was
For
gonna
something
say
that was
that.
kind of off the radar. I mean, that was a pretty decent game. A lot of high scoring, some defensive hits.
Mhm.
Looking at you, Ramsey. But yeah.
That
Overall, it
hit
was a
to
good
end the
weekend.
game on Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, man.
Oh,
Popped,
I thought he
popped.
wasn't gonna wake up. Um, oh man, nothing to do with fantasy. That was just I love Ramsey because he hits like that. Um, and I said this to Nikki when we were watching the game. I was like, I love Ramsey because he talks so much trash and hits you to back it up.
Yeah, so you got to back it up.
So I respect those kind of players. I love that. But my did you have any takeaways before I jump in?
No, like again, I think the scriptwriters cooked. I agree with everything that you knew they were doing. No, it felt good to get back into normalcy. Like you mentioned, having football almost every day of the weekend. College is back as well, so yeah, it's good to get into normalcy.
Yeah, man. And like I said, I just have two things I saw from the weekend. It's not much. The number one thing is tight ends are tight ends. And even Bowers was human this week, including Ian McBride. Bowers had a bad game for him, and he was still the number four tight end. I thought that was funny. Or number
He
two.
left. He left with an injury too, so I mean, I'm sure
True.
that helped skew some things, but um,
True.
yeah, it was pretty normal game there in New England.
Yeah, and for tight ends, hope there's a premium. If there's not, they gotta score a touchdown to be relevant. Unless your name is McBride or Bowers, that's pretty much the case at this point. Is what I saw. The only people that were relevant were really the ones that scored touchdowns, from what I saw. And I think that's how it's going to be going forward, just like it has been the last few years. You have your outliers, and one of them got hurt in George Kittle, who's going to be on the IR, from what I understand. Um, But yeah, the tight end, it's just so watered down. It's sad. So that was my number one takeaway after seeing this week, fantasy wise. And then the other one is just because he's our darling, rookie darling here. We will see Dart very soon because
I hope so. I really do. I understand the whole waiting for development and everything between, but for the sake of the fan base of the Giants and for the sake of the excitement that's behind what he's able to produce, I really, really hope when we see him by week 5.
you can't have your only receiver be jaw jacking. I don't know if it was the defense or the offense coordinator or the coach on the first week of the season because of the quarterback.
Yeah, they're obviously their sideline looked like they were 0-7 in the middle of October. Like they were gassed. They were neighbors had the 1,000-yard stare going on. It just seemed like it was a mid-season absolute debauchery over there. So I'm curious.
It wasn't like they were playing a phenomenal defense. That's the thing. Like if they were playing the Eagles or how the Browns looked, you could understand. But the Washington Commanders, they have an okay defense, but that's not their calling card. And they just couldn't do anything. So I have a feeling we're going to see Dart sooner rather than later. And it's a hard schedule, so they might just hold off on that. But
that's what I'm hoping for about week 5 or 6, because the opening slate of games are pretty brutal. It doesn't get any easier for them. So I think it doesn't slow down until about week 6 or week 7. So I as much as I want to portray them rushing Dart, I also am okay with waiting a few more weeks here until the rockiness clears.
Yeah, but Dayball's fighting for his job this year, and if they're going to play like that on offense with Russ, you might have to flip out Jameis even. It looked really bad from the little bit that I saw. So I couldn't watch the game. It was that bad. So those are my 2 takeaways. We're going to talk about our outstanding players, basically. And these don't have to be the top players of the week because I'm not going to talk about Josh Allen every week. If that makes sense, or Lamar Jackson, or anyone like that, like Brock Bowers, we could talk about every week. We're not going to. So these are kind of the under the radar players that really showed up, is what I kind of am talking about here. So first off, we're going to do 2 players per person per position. So we have 4 players for each position, and just really going over their week quickly. Just to give you an overview there. So first off, I'm going to toot my own horn a little bit on 2 players I've been calling all offseason for. So first off, for the quarterbacks, I have Michael Penix. He was quarterback 10 this week. Yes, not great, but still top 10 when he was projected to be a top 20. 27 of 42, 298 yards, touchdown, 6 of 21 or 6 carries for 21 yards and another touchdown. Numbers don't go crazy for you, but if you watch the game, he had complete control of this offense. And as a young player who didn't get many starts last year, that's one of the number one things I wanted to see. And he was able to produce 2 touchdowns with that. Justin Fields for me was outstanding. Now I am a Steeler fan, so I did watch this entire game, so it might be a little bit of bias on watching the game a little bit. But Justin Fields was quarterback 2 for the week. 16 to 22, 218 yards and a touchdown. Not much in the air, but on the ground he had 12 carries, 48 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So 3 touchdowns total. Again, controlled the offense. So Steelers are supposed to have a pretty good defense, or at least they paid for one. And he made them look pedestrian, is all I can say. Justin Fields and a couple other players who we are going to talk about a little bit here. Oh, no, actually, I removed Breece Hall. So I'll just say Breece Hall had a really good game as well, but that running attack for the Jets is going to cause issues. And then if he's able to be consistent on the completion percentage, not necessarily how many he's throwing, but completion percentage, especially to Garrett Wilson, this team's going to be better than a lot of people expect.
No, I really like what you were saying there about Justin Fields. I was a little concerned with their safety, or excuse me, with their center going out with the torn pec, like 3 days before this game happened. How their rushing game would happen, how their rushing game would be affected, but it really hasn't. You mentioned the numbers with Brees Hall and the Justin Fields. I'm not going to lie, I was a little hesitant playing some of my fantasy studs in this game. Because of the Steelers secondary and because of the weather and a few other aspects. But no, it ended up being an offensive game, and Justin Fields led a lot of it for the Jets. So great call out. And I'm happy you mentioned the lack of starts for Michael Penix. He played as if he had all season last season, and if I can recall, with 4 games at the end of last year, he started. So, considering he has such a small sample size, and he's able to look as confident and comfortable as he has out there, it shows that they do have potential this year with the way Bijan was able to catch passes and has some runs, and the way how Pitts absorbed targets. Falcons could be fun.
Yeah, I think so too. And now you're going to talk about a dude who absolutely looked like the best quarterback in the NFL outside of outside of the Josh Allen.
Yeah, and it was Justin Herbert. Regardless of its geographical location for this game, Justin Herbert played as if he was in Los Angeles and had a whole crowd behind him. He went 25 for 34 for 318 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also had 7 rushes for 32 yards. Biggest highlight for me, he was QB5 of our rankings here, and biggest highlight for me is he had 8 different pass catchers. Not necessarily what you want to hear for your fantasy people in regards to pass catchers, but when you're looking at the real meat and potatoes behind it all, Justin Herbert has weapons, and he is able to spread the ball and utilize those weapons accordingly. I'm also glad you mentioned QB10, Michael Penix, because it's not necessarily always numbers that jump out. It's the way that these players perform, and it's the way that these players attribute to the way that the game scheme goes and the way that the actual game itself goes. So that I'm going to throw in my hat for JJ McCarthy, QB11 this week. He played just the other night here on Monday Night Football, and you could probably say 2.5, if not 3 quarters, were abysmal at best. But the poise that this young man showed stood out to me the most. He went 13 for 20, 143 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did have 1 pick. It was a pick 6, which would have and felt like the nail in the coffin for this game. He also ran the ball twice for 25 yards, and one of those was a rushing touchdown as well. Again, I just wanted to highlight his poise behind this, everything from the pick 6 to him having 49 offensive yards in the first half, which was an all-time low for the Vikings. For him to come out and from what we're hearing from what he was in the locker room and the way he was handling the huddles, I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do the rest of the year with a little bit more experience under his belt and a little less pressure off his shoulders.
Yeah, I only got to watch the end of this game because I was busy last night. However, what I saw, he looked great.
Yeah, you saw enough. You saw just what you needed to, yeah.
Fourth quarter, he looked like he was he started last year, like you said about Penix. He looked so poised in the pocket. That's a great way to put it. All of these guys, like I said, these aren't your everyday names. Justin Herbert's really the only one who you would even put prior to this week, probably in the top 12. So that's what we're going to try to do is highlight the guys who aren't necessarily supposed to be there, but got there. Okay. And with that, Jeremy, you did go with a guy who's been there a lot.
No, that's fair enough. No, we'll lead into the running backs. When you say, I'll go with the better way that you segued this in regards to the guys who shouldn't be there, but they are. Christian McCaffrey should not have been there this week, but he is. He popped up on the injury report Thursday with calf issues and calf tightness and hamstring issues. And let's get real, the dude played about 5 quarters of football all last year. Half of the media has written him off as dead and washed and shot. The other half is indicating that he's going to have himself a career year this year. Well, so far, that latter half of analysts is correct. He came in at running back 4. He went 22 rushes for 69 yards and he had 22 carries for 69 yards, and he had 9 out of 10 catches for 73 yards. No touchdowns, but he still came in at RB4. So that tells me that there's not only he's back to his full service running back capabilities of pass catching and rushing, but there is no limitations whatsoever on any type of injury hiatus that he might be potentially having. The 49ers team is absolutely banged up from top to bottom, and it looks like Christian McCaffrey might be one of those ones that got away from it. Another one who I could argue that needs to be on there isn't, or vice versa, is James Cook. There has not been a running back this offseason that had more controversial contract issues than James Cook. He had OTA issues, they had camp issues, he wasn't showing up, his house was for sale. There was the typical steps that go on as a running back who is seeking a contract extension, but it's also the same typical steps that distractions occur, and the lack of focus into the game and lack of focus on season preparedness. James Cook went 13 carries for 44 yards and a touchdown. He also had 5 balls caught for 58 yards. He was actually more effective in the pass game than he was in the rush game, which is a scary sight because what he can do in the rush game and what he is able to do consistently statistically in the rush game shows how success rate of a win the Buffalo Bills have. If you're going to have Josh Allen, who's arguably the best quarterback in the league presently, having yet another weapon who is as versatile as James Cook, look out for the Bills.
Yeah, no, and this is my mistake. I forgot to put this on here, but he was running back 5 on the week. I just want to add that for you. But yeah, going back to Christian McCaffrey, he was number 4 running back on the week and no touchdowns. Scary. And now George Kittle is hurt, as well as everybody else on that team but Pearsall. Scary.
You're gonna have a lot more passing game action by Christian McCaffrey. I feel that those 9 catches are going to increase a little bit. Which again, just like James Cook, if you add the passing game weapon to a versatile running back that they are, it's gonna make some noise.
No, absolutely. And they do have Brian Robinson as the backup running back. So I wonder if, because of all the injuries, Christian McCaffrey might be sliding out a little bit to play wide receiver someplace as well. And putting Brian Robinson back there to be
great call up.
So I love that idea with good pass catchers. Just no coach likes doing it. But this is a coach who might actually do it. So we'll see. For me, I had the perennial running back in this decade, I guess. Derrick Henry, number 1 running back on the week. He just won't go down. Is basically what the deal is at this point. 18 carries for 169 yards, 2 touchdowns. He even caught the ball once for 13 yards. I had to put that in there. I wasn't going to, but he actually caught the ball 1 for 1, which was beautiful to see. There's not much to say about Derrick Henry. He absolutely destroyed the Buffalo Bills on his own, and somehow they still lost. He was just, I don't know if you watched the game or not, he was just absolutely insane. And he only played almost a little over 50% of the snaps, which is even scarier. And then I'm going to humble myself. I took off Breece Hall to be able to say I was wrong, at least for this week. He was running back 3, Javonte Williams, well done. Numbers are pretty bad, but you scored 2 touchdowns. 15 carries, 54 yards, 2 tutties, 2 catches on 3 passes, 10 yards. So not much yardage, but you get 2 touchdowns in a week that running backs didn't do a whole lot. You're going to be running back 3. I don't foresee this continuing as much as it has, or as much as he did this week. Vulture and touchdowns is basically what just happened, is what I saw. You could have saw something different. I don't know, but that's what I saw.
No, I saw a running back getting an opportunity that was not supposed to get an opportunity this year. I saw a running back who, in a unknown / weaker running back room, stand out as RB1. But I am, as well as you, pessimistic in regards to Javonte Williams, just because I want to see what he does without a Jalen Carter absence. The game plan was I mean, when you're a defensive team, when the Philadelphia defensively plans to run Jalen Carter, he's their best defensive player. Why not? Why wouldn't you not? So when you lose him in the beginning of the game, that tends to have a little bit of a ripple effect, in my opinion. So I don't want to downplay Javonte Williams at all. I think he's a fantastic talent, and I think he is RB1 in that room. I think he, during camp, and obviously during week one, showed why they haven't brought anybody else in there to fill in that void. And again, like you said, what can't be said about Derrick Henry? What could be said about Derrick Henry that hasn't been? He's a beast. I have zero desire to ever line up in front of him. I'm glad I work in Medicare.
I think he does it on purpose to just push people out of the way. He like slows down so that people have to catch him. It's so funny to watch. Real quick for the Dallas Cowboys, I guess we weren't going to talk about this, but real quick, Javonte Williams had 80% of the snaps, from what I understand, and Miles Sanders still fumbled. How long?
I didn't want to call that out.
How long was James Blue not going to be playing on this team?
I kind of felt bad for him because he had that opportunity. He's like, all right, he's playing against the Eagles, the team that shipped him out, and the team gave up on him. All right, let's go here. And it was like, what, the second carry? He puts it on the ground?
Yeah, he put it on the ground pretty early. I have a feeling that he was probably going to play more, but no coach is going to let that happen.
No.
One guy's actually holding on to the ball and running. The other guy is not. You're going to play the guy who's holding the ball, whether he's more dynamic or not. Ball possession is the biggest key. So I have a feeling my guy is still in the running. Just congratulations, Javonte, for this week. Hopefully you'll be able to continue. Wide receivers, I took two of my darlings. I went with my guys this week. If they showed up and showed out. Quentin Johnston, I was a year early. Wide receiver 2, I think this continues. 5 catches on 7 targets, 79 yards, 2 touchdowns. The thing that I care about the most, 7 targets. All of these weapons that they have on this team, and they do have quite a few, and he was able to get 7 targets. I'm pretty happy about that. He's a downfield presence for the 2 possession receivers and the running back. So I think this is going to continue because the way Herbert played, if he continues, I mean, he was balling. So that helps for sure. The other guy, again, I've been talking about him for 2 years now. Keon Coleman, he is going to be a dude, and he's definitely going to be Josh Allen's number 1 target. Wide receiver 4, 8 catches on 11 targets, 112 yards, and a touchdown. That is a number 1 receiver stat line. First week of his second season, I have a feeling this is going to continue pretty consistently. Jeremy, what about you?
No, I'm with you, man. Again, when you're dealing with one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and Josh Allen, you're going to have Keon Coleman produce well. I think he is the sole. I don't want to say the sole reason, but he is one of the main key contributors to that win. Not just the stat line alone, but the stats are what you can see on paper. But when you come to watching the games and seeing exactly what he was able to do in that, which was ultimately one of the game-winning touchdowns that he was able to acquire on a catch. He don't make that catch, the game's over on that 4th down. And it was a deflected pass at that. It was a 4th and goal. So that alone let the Bills get that W. So I think he's planted himself as wide receiver 1 in that field.
Nice. And then you have your darling.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I too went to Darling. I was so happy to see not only him succeed, but succeed in stellar fashion. Emeka Egbuka, our listeners here know that he was my favorite wide receiver in this draft class, and to see him come out and have an opportunity with Godwin out and Jalen McMillan injured, seeing him have the opportunity was cool this early in the season, but to see him ball the way he did, 67 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns. He also had a run for 9 yards. He led the receiving for the team, and like I said, he had a game-winning touchdown. Both of his touchdowns were over 25 yards plus. I think he's a must start going forward. And then the other one, I wanted to toot my own horn, just as if you were here. I wanted to toot my own horn on Garrett Wilson. I am a big advocate of where Justin Fields and him are now connecting. I'm a big advocate of the collegiate relationship blossoming into the NFL. I was a big advocate of Garrett Wilson this year succeeding under Justin Fields, and if we could take a very small sample size of one game, that seems to be going into fruition. He was number one in targets. He was number one in receptions. He was number one in yards on the team. He went 7 for 9. He for 95 yards. He had one touchdown. He was 2 yards away from a second touchdown. I think that this Garrett Wilson Justin Fields connection is going to be like this all year, and it was fun to see it portray, regardless of it being against the Steelers or not.
Yeah, and for Garrett Wilson, there's literally nobody else there. Justin Fields was looking for him. That's what I saw. So I have a feeling this is going to be consistent as well. And then Emeka Egbuka, the only thing I worry about with him is if and when Chris Godwin returns, how do you put him back in the bottle? I don't know what happens with the Buccaneers. It's a good problem to have, but I just don't know what happens.
Yeah, I'm glad we do this, not coaching, because that's a decision that I would not want to make.
Yeah. So, and then finally, tight ends. Like I said, it was pretty watered down, but we did find a couple.
Yeah, we did find a couple. I found Juwan Jennings, the tight end out of New Orleans. He was number one tight end in PPR formats. He was TE4 overall. He had 11 targets where he caught 8 balls for 76 yards. It was the 11 targets was the most of all the TEs out of the day on Sunday. So it was good to see that he was the number one target getter. Down play obviously is the subpar QB play. We do have to keep an eye on that Saints quarterback room. But hey, when there's subpar QB play, they like to dink and dunk, and what better position to benefit from dink and dunks is our tight end. So, yeah, I wanted to highlight Juwan Jennings. Furthermore, another aspect of the beneficiary of dink and dunk is Tyler Warren. He came in at TE5 this week. He had 7 catches out of 9 targets for 76 yards. He also had a rush for 3 yards. And the biggest thing that I was noticed from Tyler Warren was exactly what he was able to do at Penn State. He knows how to separate. The separation that he does off the line and off of the short coverage that he obtains is just ridiculous. He is a force to be reckoned with, and if any highlight is to show it was his high target and reception ratio, it seems like he's going to be nestled in there with Daniel Jones, who has a track record of loving his tight ends as it is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I like that you picked 2 guys that didn't score touchdowns that had great days, because I picked 2 guys that did score touchdowns that didn't have great days but ended up higher. Just as high in the ranking. So Dalton Kincaid was tight end number 1, at least for what I saw, which was shocking because he went 4 for 4, 48 yards, but he had the touchdown. And Noah Fant, tight end 7 for the Cincinnati Bengals. 4 catches on 5 targets, 26 yards, and a touchdown as well. And he ended up tight end 7. You see the difference in yardage and catches, and even in a premium format, the touchdown means so much for tight ends because of the typical lack of catches, if that makes sense. Now these 2, Jennings and Warren, they balled out, but I was amazed when I saw Dalton Kincaid as the number 1 tight end in fantasy this week, at least on Sleeper and what we were looking at here. And one caveat I want to make is the reason we're not saying fantasy points is because there's so many different nuances when it comes to leagues. We're just giving you what the generic rankings were instead of figuring out what league to pick from for fantasy points. So just moving forward, that's the reason. Noah Fant, I was happy to see. I mean, I've been a fan of his since his rookie year. He finally he's produced off and on. This was an on this week, even though it was only 26 yards, 5 targets on this offense. I was pretty shocked by.
Yeah, me too. I'm a big follower of the Bengals, especially this offense, and see him get 5 targets after what they paid Gesicki in the offseason. And obviously they paid Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Not necessarily to say that Noah Fant is going to garnish that every week, but I was interested to see how they would use Fant with Gesicki, and it seems to be that they are definitely using Gesicki a little bit more of a blocking role because I believe Fan had way more targets.
That's probably good because Fant doesn't block very well. So, um, and then, yeah. So, was there anything else you wanted to talk about from the week that was? Because we're going to go to the week that is going on now.
No, no, I really liked touching base on this, but as one chapter closes, another one opens, and just like the NFL and just like everybody else, we're already looking into week 2. Monday night's over, so let's jump into week 2.
Beautiful. So we're going to give you some flex options for week 2. Now, I based my flex options off of the fact of players that are under the radar that either showed up this past week or you've seen a glimpse of, if that makes sense. So I think it looks like you kind of did the same
Yeah, I
on
kind of
your
did the
side as
same.
well.
I kind of did the same, a little bit more percentage of rostered individuals, a little bit more on my end. Ones where you were kicking the tires on, do I play player A or B? And you chose player A. This is to kind of help you lean toward a little player B.
So the way I think the way we can look at this, at least for this week, it might change in the future, is you're looking at it as kind of like a standard 10 team, 12 team regular format, not deep roster or not a whole lot of starters, right? Like 8 to 10 starters. I'm looking at it more along the lines of a deeper starter league, such as like a 12 team, 12 starters, things like that, where you're trying to figure out where those last few players are going to be. Is kind of what I'm seeing the difference here, and a whole lot of upside. So if you want to go first on your 5, and then we can talk about those real quick.
Yeah, in no particular order. I was impressed with seeing what Jordan Mason did last night in the Minnesota Chicago game. He definitely is going to be the power back in that offense. Aaron Jones had a massive receiving touchdown that last night as well. So it shows that he is definitely the pass catching back, and he's going to be utilized to go downfield a little bit more. It definitely looks as if the red zone power back is Jordan Mason and wheels up behind that offensive line. Next up, I'm going to go to George Pickens. George Pickens has a favorable matchup this week, playing against the Giants, who last week allowed 19 receptions for 233 passing yards and a touchdown. So I'm going to go with George Pickens, and I'm also going to go with Ricky Pearsall, who very similar stat line against his opponents. He is also facing New Orleans. Both Pickens and Pearsall are playing in a dome, very favorable passing matchups. Pearsall, again, going against New Orleans, who allowed 21 receptions for 163 yards and 2 passing touchdowns last week. So that seems to be favorable. My fourth one is Jalen Reed, the forever crowded Green Bay Packer wide receiving room. It seems to be the only 2 beneficiaries touchdown wise are Jalen Reed and Tucker Kraft. So I'm wheels up on Jalen Reed. And then lastly, Bill Jacory, whatever you want to call him, Bill Crosby Merritt. The hype is real. I didn't want to jump into this hopium until I started seeing Chris Rodriguez in healthy scratch. That tells me right there that the hype is real, the realism is there, and he averaged about 16 points fantasy wise across all basic formats last week. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Bill does as well.
Yeah, real quick, I liked what I saw from Jordan Mason. I think they're going to work really well together in Minnesota, which is going to be nice. Pearsall and Reed, I mean, Pearsall's all they got left. So, catching the ball in San Fran, so wheels up on him as well. Jaden Reed, he's my guy. So I love that you had him here. But the big one for me is George Pickens. He had a horrible day. On Thursday. However, he's also going up against one of the best defenses in the game, and CD Lamb was untouchable. The biggest problem with CD Lamb was CD Lamb. He dropped 4 balls, so it could have been even worse, and he had 14, 15 points without a touchdown. For me, I went all wide receivers because usually at the end, wide receivers are a little bit better to use as flexes in the formats that I know of, at least. So I went with someone I already talked about, Quentin Johnston. We've talked about him enough, but he had an incredible day. I think it continues. And if Herbert's going to throw the ball like he did this past week against what's supposed to be a good defense, then wheels up on him. Hollywood Brown, he's the only one left in Kansas City, so we'll see what happens there. Alec Pierce, Isaac Tesla, and Keyshawn Booty are the other three. For Pierce, I really like his down the field presence when everyone else is kind of short. He can go down the field and get those big chunk plays. He might only have 2 catches, but it's going to be for like 50 yards, 60 yards, and hopefully a touchdown. Isaac Tesla, I can't believe I have a third wide receiver on this on this list, but he's impressive. He scored a touchdown in his first game, and he looks the part, flat out. And then Keyshawn Booty, this is the guy no one talks about during the offseason, and then Drake May just absolutely loves the guy. So I think he might be he'll be that number 2 in New England. And if you're as high on Drake May as I am, Keyshawn Booty is going to be a pretty nice play to have this year. So those are my 5. Anything you'd like to say, sir?
No, big Booty fan. Big Booty fan. I think. Yeah, we all are, don't we? Anyway, I think he's separated himself as wide receiver 1. Diggs is definitely still that persona there, but tracing back to last year, he's averaging 6 to 8 targets a game. He clipped 100 yards last week. It looks like he's very favorable with Drake May. I am a huge Tesla fan. That catch was OBJ-esque. He had one play, 1 catch, and he made it count. Did he ever? But yeah, I like Tesla, and from what I'm understanding, is they're going to try to incorporate him in the offense a little bit more. There was a little bit of a tweak injury that kind of prevented him from playing too much, but I love all the calls, especially those 2.
All right, beautiful. So we talked about the first week, we talked about the second week. Now we're going to talk about next year. Skip all the way through the rest of this year. We're going to just talk about next year real quick here. Because it is Dynasty, it is a format you always have to be ready for the rookies who are coming in. So we're just going to name a few, maybe talk about a couple, but top prospects from each position here. So for the quarterback, most of you guys might already know the names, but we might give you a little bit of tidbits or anything like that. So Lenore Sellers, Cade Klubnik, Drew Aller, Garrett Nussmeier, and Sam Levitt. These are not in any special order. This is just whenever I saw the name, I put it down. So for Lenore Sellers, he is my number 1 just because of his running ability. And I love Drew Aller, and I know you wanted to talk about him a little bit.
No, yeah, Drew Aller, what he's doing at Penn State's great. He's 6'5", 235. He's a senior. He had that prototypical type frame. His arm talent is one of the best in his class. He is one heck of a gun. His negative is his scrambling and his throwing. His throwing on the run is where we go. I'm trying to say that is the only downfall that they're saying. So he's coming in with comps of Josh Allen and Justin Herbert due to his pocket type presence and his gun of an arm. Senior year this year, he's going to come out, and we'll see what he does in Penn State.
Yeah, and I've been a fan of Drew Aller for 3 years now. I don't like Penn State. I say that all the time. However,
yeah,
I am a huge fan of Drew Aller. I wish he played for another team. Cade Klubnik, he's had a little bit of a rough start, to be honest. I think he figures it out, and he's been the talk of arguable number 1 if Arch doesn't come out, which is also Arch Manning should be on this list. I don't believe he's coming out. A lot of people don't think he's coming out. He just started his college career, so I believe he's going to stay. So that's why we have him off the list. Just want to give that information as well. And then Garrett Nussmeier, at least what I saw in against Clemson, he looks the part. He looks really good. So that's a name I'm gonna kind of keep paying attention to throughout the college football there. So running backs, we have Jeremiah Love, Nick Singleton, Damon Claiborne, sorry, and then Mekhi Hughes. Real quick, Nick Singleton, also Penn State, came back, would have been around the probably right after like Caleb Johnson and RJ Harvey, maybe even in that mix is what I heard. But he came back to win a national championship. And really it's a two two running back race for who's the number one running back in the league this year, from what everyone's been saying, and it's Singleton or Love. And I know you wanted to talk about Love.
Yeah, man, love is one of those ones where you have like a background and it's insane. So like he's a sprint champion, so that automatically includes it adds to his explosive runner, and he is also a decent receiver as well. He can play wide or slot. Just basically his explosiveness, his acceleration. He compares him to Nick Chubb, and that's a very good comp to be a part of. The only negative that I'm reading about is his pass protection, but it is something that has improved each year. So once he gets a little bit more work under his belt into that, and then hits an NFL level with that appropriate scouting, that appropriate coaching, I feel like he'll be just fine.
Yeah, that's a big thing in the NFL, so hopefully he'll be able to figure that out. But if that's the only problem and it's not necessarily any catching ability or running ability, I think we'll be okay. Then we have wide receivers Jordan Tyson, Mekhi Lemon, Carnell Tate, Jacoby Lane, and Denzel Boston. Now, I'll be honest, I don't know too much about any of these guys. I know you were going to talk about Tyson?
I'm bringing up Carnell Tate, man.
Carnell Tate, I'm sorry.
No, yeah, it's funny. He's 6'3", 195 as a junior, and he is coming from Ohio State. Everyone's talking about the one Ohio State wide receiver, but it seems to be that there's always seems to be two each year that come out, and so far that we've seen in the past 5 to 6 years, Ohio State wide receivers produce. So eyes are on him. He excels in intermediate routes, and he's probably one of the best separators in this draft class. His comps are to Calvin Ridley, so I will take that all day. The only negative I'm reading on him is he's a little slower toward the deep ball. But again, if you were a master at the intermediate routes, I'm talking to you, Michael Pittman, you don't need to worry about the deep ball. So I think he'll be just fine in that Ohio State type mold.
Yeah, so he sounds like he's going to kind of take over the Emeka Egbuka role for Jeremiah Smith being the number one phenom there. And that role's not a bad thing, as we saw this past week for Emeka Egbuka. So excited to see what Carnell Tate's going to be able to do this year. And like you said, a lot of routes are intermediate routes, so you don't really always have to worry about the deep ball. A lot of people who have been able to make their career as a possession receiver in the short and intermediate and been very good. So not too worried about that either. Last up, we have tight ends. I'll be honest with you, I don't know much about any of them yet. I just wanted to bring the top 5 that I saw on some lists to fruition here, just so we can kind of start learning about them. So Jack Endries, Max Clare, Kenyon Sadiq, Eli Stowers, and Joe Royer.
Yeah, I did some homework on Kenyon Sadiq. He's 6'3", 245. He's a junior out of Oregon. His athleticism is off the charts. His comparables are Mark Andrews, so that's a very good comp to be a part of. Mm-hmm. He's probably one of the most effective blockers in this draft class, so something to keep an eye on is in an NFL aspect, you're all about tight ends that block, but in a fantasy world, the blockers aren't necessarily the ones that are catching the balls, so we have to keep an eye on that one. But he does have a history of various alignments in wide receiver and tight end, from slot wide receiver to his tight end rules itself. So it'll be interesting to see what he does in Oregon.
Love it. I love that you did the research, man. Love it, love it. I'm excited to watch these guys. I'm going to pay more attention to them and be a little bit I'm more of an eye test guy, as you know, so I'm excited to watch them and be able to kind of tell you what I see. So is there anything else you wanted to discuss from week 1 or going into week 2?
No, I think some of the teams that I'm a big fan of Kyle Brandt and Good Morning Football. And he is an advocate this week of indicating week 1 is a lie. Now, part of that aspect of what he talks about is true, and part of it tends to be determined. But there's a lot of things that happen week 1 that are weird. There's a lot of things that happen with the players that happen in week 1 that don't happen the rest of the season. So I'm really looking to next week, seeing how the teams that won continue to win, seeing how the teams that won, are they for real, are they fake, and everything in between.
No, I love it. I 100% agree. I thought I saw Some surprises, but a lot of what I expected, to be honest, this past week. Biggest surprise is that I did not realize how good Cleveland's defense was going to be. So you have to pay attention to that because they were able to keep, granted, a Bengals offense that was playing in week one. So let's caveat that because they never play well in week one, but they were able to keep them in check. So an offense that I expected to just fly all year. We'll see what happens. I think that's about it then. We are going to get ready here for Commanders Packers, which should be a great Thursday night game. I don't know how they're doing this
Agreed.
on Thursday night now, that all these games are good. And we will talk to you guys next week. For Jeremy, I'm Mickey. Check us out on Podbean, YouTube, and Apple. Also, our socials on Blue Sky and X are at dynastymttops. And then email us at dynastymttops@gmail.com for any comments or questions or show ideas for the offseason. So, again, for Jeremy, I'm Mickey. This has been Dynasty at the Mountaintops. Have a great week. Enjoy that football.
Excellent. Thanks a lot.